Thank you. Thank you for sending out all those emails.
Oh, you're welcome. Put the other ones under your chair. I'll give Rick another minute. Let him be here right now.
Rick playing hooky?
He's coming.
I'm not my brother-in-law's keeper.
Oh, come on. We'd like you to be.
Oh, speak of the devil.
There he is.
Should we all stand because Rick came in?
We'll all applaud.
Hey, Rick, do you want to take this? You got everything. Do you hear my chair?
Yeah.
They're gonna, at least they're together on the same side over there.
This is your table.
They're not getting that from
Down
both.
there.
You might wanna slide over
I'm
one
gonna
more.
put these in order.
Versus that flight for China.
How was that vacation?
So I think that's about everybody.
You are. Had your name all over it. There you go. We could have taken that one. No reason there.
We can. We'll take the papers up and go right along with it.
Please do. I'd like to show you where you can find them. If it ain't you, keep looking at me. I gotta look at you.
Mark.
And Dickie.
Mark.
It's your meeting.
I'm
Yeah, go
gonna,
ahead.
now that Rick's got comfortable, I'm gonna say, could we all please stand and salute the flag, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a semi-agenda for tonight, but before we even start, I'm going to be a little stern. I hope that everybody can be respectful this evening, and please try to keep your comments brief when you speak. We have a lot of stuff to look at, so if we could keep it brief and happy. And if this is okay with Raquel, I'd like to, and Brad, I'd like to discuss the special town meeting article first.
We can't
We
hear
have
you.
new members on the committee.
I'm sorry, yes, I should,
Move close, right? I can't hear the
oh,
word.
I'm sorry.
Now I've got germs on
I knew that till I said that.
I knew I didn't have
That's, I know you were looking at me and frowning, and I'm like, did I see
Trying to
something
tilt my head the
bad?
way it was going to sound
If
the
you wanna sit here, I'll swap with you.
No,
wanna
I've already been there.
Introduce.
The new members.
I read that already.
I need to back up, sorry. We have two new members on the board tonight, I apologize. Mike Arsenault, I don't know if you all know Mike. And Jackie Child,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank
And
you.
we assume you guys know everybody.
Most faces are familiar, yes.
Okay.
On your right is Bruce Barron from the newspaper. Yeah,
Did you guys get sworn in already and all
We
that good stuff?
did.
Hey,
We
you're
took
official
care of
then.
that.
yeah. Jackie
Sworn
did
in.
last night. Yeah.
That being said, Gail, there is a whole list of committee members out there with contact information, primarily email addresses or phones, if you want to put them on there or whatever. If you want, Is that current now, Kath? or-
She just gave it to me tonight.
It's
Oh, you made it?
as of this afternoon.
Oh,
yes.
great, I was gonna
Cause
offer to
somebody
make a
down
new
the
one.
pond said it would be a good idea to
So-
do it,
oh,
so.
Did you include that in our packet?
Yes, it's
right?
on the bottom.
It's on the bottom.
sheet. The only one I don't have is Mike's. I don't have Mike's email or phone number.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So,
I'll get that.
if you, thank you.
Good job.
So, because your top sheet in your packet is, about Article 2 for March 14. The selectmen have made their recommendation, and I'd like the finance committee to make theirs tonight, if we could, so. Article 2 says, to see if the town will vote to finance the purchase of a new six-wheel dump truck with hydraulics, front power angle plow, wing plow, and all-season 6 to 8 yard dump body at a final price not to exceed $160,000, including financing, and to take an amount not to exceed $5,000 from surplus for a down payment that will ensure delivery and be utilized towards the first payment. So,
Make a motion, finance committee recommend yes.
do I hear a second?
I second that.
Jackie? Discussion, Rick?
Couple questions for Brad. The $5,000 deposit, if the town votes down the truck in June, is that gone or do we get it back?
I can't answer that question because the guy at International couldn't answer me, but I imagine we would get it back. I don't know. I don't know.
I would think we would.
The guy at International was stunned I even asked the question.
I would think we
They've
would.
never had a municipality back out of a
Let me
deal.
kind of answer that. Well, I can't answer as far as the $5,000 go, but when we enter into this, because we're voting to finance it, so it's just like what we did with the backhoe, so at that point, I think we're locked in. Regardless of whether it gets voted yes, I think we have to pay it, because we are voting to enter into the agreement.
Okay, that was my second question. In this special meeting, is it your presumption that if that vote is yes, then we are gonna buy a new truck regardless of what the rest of the town says in June?
It would be just like the backhoe. We purchased it, we've made one payment, we have to go back out in June to get the second payment.
No, that's not just like the backhoe.
Why?
We purchased the backhoe under a special town meeting, we voted to do it, and then this year we're going after the second
Correct.
payment. But this would be, so you're saying we purchased this truck under this special town meeting on this year's current budget, not on the budget articles that we're voting for in June?
Correct, because
Okay,
we
that's
could
different.
take, I mean, technically, we could take the first payment out of surplus. And that probably would clarify things for a lot of people. if we-
Right.
But we don't
This
wanna,
year's surplus.
correct, but we don't wanna touch surplus.
Right.
We don't wanna lower that anymore.
So that's a little concerning to me, and then back to a question for Brad. What is the hurry about getting the truck, in your mind anyway, as far as, because we always like the major purchase like that, everybody likes to have more people involved in voting on it. It's, I do anyway, and so do you guys. So what is the,
It's basically delivery time. Because if we wait till July 1st to order the truck, after it's, into our next budget, and I order it July 1st, we won't see that truck, if we're lucky, until January. They're saying 90 days to get the truck built, the cab and chassis, and then anywhere from 60 to 90 days to get the body and all the plow equipment installed on the vehicle.
no way to push that? I mean, that sounds excessive to me, but.
Actually, that's pretty good.
That's real good.
That's if we get it in early. If we don't get in early, they won't guarantee that.
Yeah, okay.
And you're in line with a lot of other towns if you wait until.
That's the biggest issue. We're gonna be in line with so many other towns that, as you come and as they put in their purchase order to International, that's when they start the build date.
Ted?
You're talking about delivery time. I noticed
I
you're
can't
still
hear you.
using the old backhoe.
I'm sorry?
I said, you're talking about delivery time. Well, I don't see the new backhoe here, but I do see the old backhoe is still being used.
That's correct. We have to use something.
So where's the new one?
The new one was 45 to 60 days. It'll be here in the middle of April, towards the end of April, somewhere in that ballpark.
And now that we're talking about the backhoe, we have a problem because the town voted to appropriate $116,500, period, no more. And you've gone over that and said, you see, you need another $3,000.
Whatever the amount we approved is what we
We approved $116,500,
Not on that.
not a penny more.
I believe it was
Can we stay on
Yeah.
Article 2, please?
And,
Exactly.
yeah, we need to move along.
I believe it's 119,500.
No, I've got it in writing right here, 116,500.
Got a gavel?
Don't answer.
Just, we'll stay on Article 2 for now.
Are there any more, is there any more discussion regarding Article 2?
I'm still concerned about, cause how many people are gonna show up at this special town meeting?
We're having it on Saturday.
Yeah,
in
but-
hopes that we'll-
I mean, realistically, you
understand.
have it scheduled for this room, so you're expecting 20 people maybe? And,
I don't know.
and that's a pretty big matzo ball to bite off with 20 people, cause you're gonna have a lot of people that are pissed off, cause they're not gonna understand why it didn't go to June, and whether that's a good reason, I
I mean,
don't dispute your reasoning.
That is the reasoning, and that's the only reasoning, is so we can get up in line first,
Yeah.
or, as close to first as we can get. And because then we won't have the issue come next week, we'll have the vehicle, where if we don't, we're gonna have an issue for as long as it takes us to get the vehicle.
So the backhoe was a 45-day to 90-day delivery, but the truck's gonna be a 6-month delivery.
The more
Because,
trucks,
yeah, I know,
more
you
trucks
gotta-
being purchased than backhoes.
and I know you're gonna put the equipment on the truck as well, but it just sounds excessive, 3 months to put something on like that, but
I
I
do
don't
think,
know, maybe not.
I do think we're gonna put a postcard out, instead of the big mailings
Yeah,
that we do.
yeah.
I think we're gonna put a postcard in the mail, saying what the article is and what the meeting's gonna be.
Yeah. I just know, special town meetings, you don't get a lot of, the same with the backhoe, we didn't get a huge.
We don't get a lot of people at the regular town meeting.
Well, no, a lot of people voted, 300-400 people voted, that's more than 20.
Yeah,
But
no.
anyway, that was my concern with it. I mean, I do have a couple more questions for Brad while he's here about our new equipment, if this is the right time to ask it, I don't
No.
know. No?
It's not to do with Article 2, it's not really.
Well, okay. Yeah. I guess it's not.
It's not about the new,
It's about the new truck, but that's all right.
It's about the new truck, yeah.
Yeah, it's about the new truck
yeah, well then go for it.
and the new backhoe, but the new equipment in general. The new truck, I'll specify that so it relates to this article, but
Sorry, whatever you got, I don't want.
do we, on new equipment, like when you buy a new tractor or a new truck or something like that, you have certain intervals of maintenance that have to be done on it. Do we take the new equipment, or will we to the dealer for that type of maintenance, like
Actually-
100-hour service? or
Actually, the backhoe, the dealer will come to
come
us.
to you?
The international, if it has to have scheduled maintenance with the dealership, it'll go to the dealership.
We will do that
Yeah,
on that,
absolutely.
I'm just trying to figure out whether, and that would be like per mileage or per hours on the backhoe, per miles on the
Correct.
truck, or whatever.
Whatever they,
Whatever they do for
There's
that
things
interval.
that are under the warranty,
Yeah.
that we will make sure that they stick under the warranty and go to the services that they need under the warranties.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But after the warranty,
Then we'll just do the services as
And
we normally do them.
and they do that or we do it?
We'll do the services here.
Okay. And do we do some kind of a daily checklist on the equipment, like,
We give it a good over if it's going out.
but do you have a documented daily checklist?
No, we do not.
Would that be something you'd like to have, or? I mean, it's something when you
It's
do it,
another thing that it kinda gets lost in the wash if, the next guy, he doesn't, what are you gonna do?
well, we don't have to, I can.
I think, Don, what he's getting at is when the new truck arrives, he wants to make sure that it has regular.
That's my whole point of the
safety
line of questioning, is
Yeah.
what are we gonna do different for new equipment than we've done for old equipment, if we're struggling with equipment, which it appears we are. We got two pieces of equipment down and another one limping right now, so I'm just
I
trying to.
mean, I can tell you one thing, they never should have bought the 2011 International with the workforce motor in it.
They didn't know at the time.
Baloney. That's been a garbage motor since the day International, and they bought it, and they were new back. It was just, it's been junk since since 2007, they realized they had a problem with it. They started the lawsuit in 2010, we should have been involved in, but we weren't.
Okay.
And now we have a workforce motor that's,
So do we don't even like check the oil in the trucks during
we
on a
check
daily?
the oil every day in the truck.
Well, that's what I was asking, Brad.
Well, I mean, you're asking me for a checklist, and we don't have a checklist. I
Okay.
don't have a checklist.
Okay.
We do a
But you
once
do,
over on the trucks every day that are going out for work.
But you don't have a documented.
We don't have a
routine.
documentation to it, no.
Like,
Martha, did you have a question?
Well, I did. I'm kind of confused because the special election, you were saying to purchase a new six-wheeler at $160,000 with $5,000 down at a surplus. But then on the articles for June, it's saying to authorize a new dump truck for $176,475 and to raise and appropriate, which,
Because you guys have.
but the repayment.
Yeah, Raquel, sorry.
Last night I said you guys would have to skip that article because we have to rework that one
Right.
with the correct figures.
Ed?
Yeah, I was told the new backhoe you got now, cause you didn't want the one you originally were gonna get. It's
I'm
gonna
sorry,
be-
and I
All
cannot.
right,
It's
it's
more money.
Brad, don't worry about it, it's the
Yeah,
backhoe.
yeah.
We're not talking about the backhoe.
Other discussion? All those in favor of voting for the finance committee to recommend yes on Article 2? Please raise your hands. Five. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Would the noes put their hands up again, please? Did you see those? I believe I got 6. What?
Eddie, put your hand up and you sit down.
6, yes. The article to recommend yes failed.
Yeah, you're not voting?
Do I hear another motion?
To make that recommendation? Is that what you want?
That's what we're looking for, is a recommendation, yes.
What was the vote, yeah?
6 to 5. It failed.
So one of some reasons I make a motion to make a yes recommendation.
We vote again, right?
I make a motion, we make a yes recommendation.
I second it. I thought that's what we just said.
That was the vote, this is the recommendation.
we have discussion again?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah,
Go home.
Oh, the reason I voted no is because I think it should go before the townspeople. That's why I voted no. And unless I get a rock solid answer why we can't, then I'm gonna continue to vote no. I just don't think a purchase. Now, that being said, if we were, if I can only talk about this, then I can't state the rest of the reason why I'm doing it, why I'm saying no. But if you'll let me elaborate a little, I will. But if you say no, then I'll shut up.
I say you can if you keep it brief, Rick.
Okay, I'll keep it brief.
I guess a
Within the rest of the articles, we're gonna exceed LD1 by $71,000, according to your worksheet. Listen, we're gonna exceed LD1, and I'm not shocked at that, but one of the reasons we're gonna exceed LD1 is because of the 2 equipment payments. Okay, in fact, that's the whole reason.
You mean a backhoe payment and a truck
Right,
payment.
38,000 or 36,000 and the 50-something thousand. So I wouldn't mind that if we were shaving the rest of the budget. Did you hear that comment? I said I wouldn't mind that if we were shaving the rest of the articles more, which we're not.
You mean road department or in
Well,
general?
I mean the whole 32 articles, whatever we have to keep that LD1 levy limit down. I wouldn't even mind the 71 if I thought if I didn't think we had a little more room to shave some things. And it could be some in the road department, it could be some in other departments, but that's my reasoning for saying no to the truck at this point. Upset.
Any more discussion? What was the motion, Kathy, please?
That we recommend yes on the article.
All those in favor of recommending yes on the article? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3,
You're opposed or you're for?
opposed. These are opposed.
4. I heard 4.
Are you for or against?
You might have heard it, but I don't see
Come on
it.
that one.
Are you for buying the truck or not? I'm recommending yes. You want yes or no?
At this moment, no.
Well, then raise your hand. No, I mean, he's asking
Okay,
for
so-
yes.
Come on.
Okay, please put your hands up again. Okay.
It's the same 6.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Put your hand up. No, that's a no.
6. Yeah.
You know, you put the cart before the horse.
Exactly.
That's my thought.
So somebody needs to make a motion that we recommend no.
Recommend the town and the payers on the record.
Recommend no.
Raise the money. You don't, but you're on the no side.
Put myself in a bubble.
Ed will do it.
It's just not fair now.
I'd be interested in.
Dawn, how's that work? Do we have to make a recommendation now that we put no, or does it just automatically go to no because yes failed?
Or does it just stay blank?
It could be no recommendation. It could be blank.
Well, not really, because.
No, because we're
Yes, it can
recommending
be.
no.
We recommended no.
Well, then make the motion.
Well, no, we didn't necessarily recommend no.
That's correct.
You're right. We recommended
Did not
not to
recommend
say
yes.
yes. That's true.
We don't want him to have it.
And it could be, it could be a recommendation of no recommendation from the finance committee, but I don't
Fine
think that's
with
where
me.
it's going.
That works for me.
Consensus, whatever? Well,
I'm not really sure what to do.
well, I guess ask anybody if they have anything else to do. If they don't, then we move to the next thing.
Nobody's making a motion, move on.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Point, Article 2 is right, Article 2 should be Article 3.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
I don't have the one.
It's Article 1, Article 2, Article 2.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll let Debbie know.
Shouldn't be Debbie preparing it.
She's helping out.
Article 3, to see if the town will vote to allow the select board to sell by bid the 97 International truck and 2 stainless steel sanders with the monies to be deposited into the new equipment account. Select board recommends yes, finance committee
Make a motion, we recommend yes.
second. Anybody second?
I second that.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Yes, discussion. Cindy?
Fred, those 2 stainless steel sanders, they can't be, the 2 sanders can't be used down the line, maybe?
No,
No?
they're obsolete for what the types of
Are they?
vehicles that we have.
Any other discussion? Those in favor of yes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We get 9. Those opposed? 1, 2, 9.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
can I ask, why did you oppose Kathy? Can I ask one?
No.
Okay. I didn't know maybe if you know.
So is that a recommendation? Did we just make a recommendation?
No.
No, we just voted.
Correct. Now we need somebody to make another motion.
What? You voted yes.
We voted yes.
Is that what we did? We did the recommendation.
Yeah. The motion was to recommend
That's
yes.
what you said.
We have, isn't my understanding is we vote
Wanna know
yes
why,
on
Raquel?
it, and then you have to vote yes to recommend.
No, I got an answer for that question.
Recommending yes to the article is You recommend yes.
They need
I was just being shitty.
to, they do it twice when they
Yeah,
do
but
it.
we don't
Before
have
answer
to.
the question, what happened is-
To
Okay, go
put
ahead.
it in here.
Right,
Our recommendation is,
it's already in there, so we're just recommending for yes. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
Well, Raquel stated the obvious,
Which was what?
well, which is, okay, we recommend not to, buy a new truck, but yet to sell the old one. So I've never said that the old one is worth fixing now. It's got a blown motor, I'd say it's not worth fixing. And my only qualm, as I'll state again,
I know.
is that I think more people should vote on this article and get the proper information. So I'm not saying that we're not gonna get a new truck, I'm just saying, even if we had to rent a truck for,
That's not so easy.
No.
That is, I have one that we can have till the end of March. I had to go to Limerick to find it. It cost me $660 just to get it here.
Right.
I mean, it's not easy to find a rental plow truck. Nobody wants to rent their plow trucks because they know what happens to them.
I don't blame them.
yeah.
I wouldn't either.
March, spring's gonna be here soon anyway, so wait till June.
Jackie?
Right, but the problem.
The problem with
the
doing it in
is
June is
ordering
you won't
of
get the truck before next winter,
Oh, by then.
which is a problem. That is a real problem. I mean, without it, you're down to 2 large trucks and a 1-ton. And every time you decide to increase the routes, you're gonna wear out more trucks. These trucks aren't gonna last forever, you keep beating them to death.
Don't beat them.
What's that?
Don't beat them to death then.
Well, then we can't drive on our roads, cause that definitely beats them to death.
You're right.
So if we keep them parked, they'll be just fine. And
That's
everybody will be nice and grumpy, and I'll just sit there and watch the snow come down.
Jackie?
I mean, the trucks get beat by the nature of the job they do.
And I get that, but.
It seems like you basically do that. You wait till after the storm before you put the plow down.
Okay,
I
but
don't know.
I don't think
Bullshit.
That is
Jackie
a
had a
fact.
question, Jackie had a question.
I apologize because I'm new.
Bullshit.
But my question,
That wasn't directed at you.
No,
Okay,
no,
sorry.
something else.
my question is this line of advertising for this special meeting falling in line with the same line of advertising we did when we decided to spend all of the money to tear down the building?
Yes.
Then we're good to go. Just because you are on the side that is opposing this, we're following the same guidelines that we did for another very controversial article. And if they're matching up and we're following it equal for both ways, then you guys just need to let it go.
Yes, because it's gonna be
If
advertised.
it's
Actually, it will
advertised
be
by law,
It's gonna be advertised more.
and it's the same, yeah, because you're doing a mailing. I didn't see no mailing when you wanted to spend all this money for the school. I know it's controversial, and I didn't want to go there, being new to the board, but if we're following the same guidelines, then we need to just follow them.
Yeah.
And if it's fair for that, it's fair for this article as well. In my opinion.
It's like putting the cart before the horse. No matter what. That's my feeling.
I think so.
Yeah,
I
Jackie?
understand that, Tammy, I agree with you 100% on saying that. But again, the concern is not getting it here in time for next
And I
winter.
understand that, but okay, then ask to raise the money in March. Ask to raise
You mean
money
do the
in
whole
March.
article in March instead
Why
of
not?
putting part of it now and part of it then?
Yeah.
Well, that's the concern, is that there won't be that many people there.
What's the
But
difference?
Well,
I don't
yeah,
understand
but
the
difference
difference.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
What's the
I-
difference?
Whoa, whoa,
Let
let
me
me
tell you the
let me
difference.
straighten
If
this
you
out
ask
here.
for all that money in March, either take it all, it has to come out of your savings,
Surplus.
or you gotta have another taxation of all the citizens in town for the expenditure of the truck.
Exactly. Either take it out of
That's the only
surplus
two
or
options
do
you
a
have. If you
supplemental
take
tax.
all that money in March.
Do you get that, ladies? Do you understand that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay, just
Yeah,
wanna
But you
make-
know what I mean?
We had no
You
problem
can't-
doing that on the backhoe. We only had a handful of people that voted for it.
But you didn't pull all the
Same-
money
same
out in
thing.
March.
Same thing, just different
No,
article.
no. It's
Well,
not the
what did
same
we
thing.
do? Go back to that, what did we do? We raised the first payment in March.
You took
From
the
the
money
backhoe.
from
Surplus.
surplus.
We took it out of surplus.
Surplus.
We're
So
not
what's the
doing that.
first payment on this truck?
That's what the 5,000's coming out as,
It's the
is
down
of
payment, we're doing
surplus.
5,000 down payment.
Okay,
And asking for the rest in
We
June.
wouldn't even get the truck until fall.
so we wouldn't be making a payment.
So why
I
can't
only
we
have a
wait?
tentative payment, it's not down to the penny.
I'm just concerned that citizens will vote that down. If they do,
So why can't we wait for everybody to be able to vote on it? If you're not gonna get it till fall, it won't make any difference, just a few more days.
Well, the
Well,
only-
no.
We'll be voting here on
The
something
point is,
that everybody
the
should
point
be
is
voting
when to
on.
order it. That's the whole reasoning for this, is when we can order it, so that we can have it before next winter. If we wait till July 1, we won't be able to wait, we won't have it for next winter, most of the winter. We'd be lucky to get it in January. That's the problem. That's the only reason I asked for a special town meeting. That's the only reason, so that we can have a truck available for next fall.
Well,
So that it's here for the
I
town.
can't argue with that at this point because I don't know.
But
If I
I'm only
did
going by
know, I
what
would.
everybody, they told me, the chassis manufacturer told me 90 days to build the truck once it's approved. From there, they told me up at HP Fairfield, it's anywhere from 60 to 90 days if we're in early. If not, we're in line with everybody else.
There shouldn't be a handful of people that vote on this.
But
It
it's
should be the whole community.
Martha?
It's a lot of money.
I'll tell you what the problem I have. You rushed it through the backhoe through special town meeting because he needed it for the winter. We still don't have it. That could have waited till the November election, you know what I mean? Till the June election. You didn't need to do that. You said you had to have it. You needed to punch the bank into that.
I don't build them, ma'am.
Okay.
All I can tell you is, we ordered it, the day it was approved, it was ordered. I don't build them. When they build them, they'll deliver it.
I'm agreement with Rick. I don't like special elections because of.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to do the best I got for what I have for the town.
Brad, your answer to that question could be like, Martha, there's a difference in all reality between the truck and the backhoe. The backhoe lost the front end. It can be used in two-wheel drive to do some of the stuff they are doing with it in the winter, and it has been used to do that, push back banks and stuff.
Still use it.
Truck, yeah, I know that, but the truck is a different story because it has a blown engine.
Right,
It's not going anywhere.
but I'm just
So
saying.
that's the difference in the two scenarios there.
But if you wanna get realistic, we could have dropped the whole head on that truck and it'd still be running. Because we knew about.
I have no idea
We knew
what
about,
that means.
with
What'd you
that.
say? I can only hear part of what you're saying,
I'm
so.
saying, and you could have dropped in a brand new motor in that truck for $10,000.
You wanna put a brand new motor for $10,000 in a 23-year-old truck? Not this guy. I'm not doing that.
People, we've spent 30
That's
minutes
craziness.
on this
That truck
article.
shouldn't have been on the road anyway.
It's time to move
Shouldn't have
on.
been fixed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and while Brad is here, is it the pleasure of the group that we move on to his articles, because we may not get him here again.
Good idea.
Is that okay with you, Brad? Or do you wanna stay? Do you wanna start with number one and go through with us? Do you wanna start with number one and go through with us?
Or do you wanna skip yours?
Oh, if we could skip to mine, or either that, or I will come back if you wanna just schedule a date for mine.
Let's just do them.
You're
Let's
here,
get you
let's
here.
just,
Do it.
let's see if we can make some progress.
All right.
Okay. All right. Article 11. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $245,413 and authorize the selectmen to expend receipts as needed for the operations of the road department.
Since it's down 5.5%, I recommend we, yes, vote. Recommend we vote yes. Or.
Make a yes recommendation.
Yeah, thank you.
I second that. My vote.
Discussion. None?
I have a question. Sorry.
I didn't say that,
You're way too loud.
but I was just about to say.
Normally, because I've sat with you during last year and we came in to go over the articles last year, and you did a really good job of saying how much was actually spent, what was requested from last year, and how much of that was actually spent. Did you happen to do that breakdown for this?
I can't tell you, well, I can tell you roughly what was actually spent, but it's just my own handwriting
I
on a
just
piece
knew
of
that
paper.
you had those tallies for that meeting that we did here for the last year budget. I'm just curious as to, is there any more room to shave in this total?
Well, maybe Brad could address that first.
I'm not happy with this total, so don't ask me.
Ju-
I didn't hear
Yeah,
this total until 2 minutes ago. It's not what I proposed. So,
In
What do you mean the
Article,
245?
Well, I have it if you just.
11?
Article 11, you didn't propose that?
no, that's not the amount I proposed.
Oh.
I haven't seen the amount that was,
Oh.
Is,
So,
can't
Well,
break-
while we're
can't
looking at
break
numbers,
those meetings.
Dawn?
you have to be, I think finding out where you are in spending is a good idea, but you have to be cautious. You still got time left in your budget.
We're what, 2/3 of the way through?
Yeah, but sometimes, things don't happen until,
Right before the
Yeah,
end of it.
right.
I agree. I agree.
I mean, it's a good idea, but always
Yeah.
keep in mind that.
That's last year's ballot.
No, it's not what she's asking
We
for.
haven't.
No, it isn't.
She's asking you what was spent this year.
Yeah. There is a selectman's ledger in your packet there, but that, well, it's
Sorry,
not,
I've only had a few moments to sit here and look.
it's not very, it's not detailed. It said, it's for roads in general. It's not broken down by summer and winter,
Okay.
so. Kathy?
Brad, how far off is this number from what you proposed?
$9,000.
And you weren't advised as to why it was changed or who changed it?
My budget from last year to this year went up $900.
I guess I'm a little concerned about how these numbers get changed from how the elected officials submit them to the select board.
I can answer that. The difference on the amount would be the part-time position was cut from 30 hours to 20 hours. The part-time employee.
Well, okay, I understand.
I have a problem with the whole way it happened. When I was told to bring in a bare bones budget, it took me a long time to go through this and figure out the exact figures and go back a couple of years and see what we actually spent as opposed to what we didn't spend. And cuts were made and monies were moved out of certain accounts and moved to where they should be, and accounts were adjusted. And I was told to bring in a bare bones budget, and my budget came in $900 more than last year. And I would think if that wasn't sufficient, then I should have been told to bring back a revised
Well,
budget.
I just don't
but nobody ever
understand
said that to me.
why that change wasn't made when you were here with your discussion.
But we didn't have much discussion that evening, I can tell you that.
I guess that bothers me. Why? I mean, I understand you guys making the change, but I think the change should be cut with the person that submitted the article, knowing it's being changed and what the changes were made from.
I did tell him after the fact. The change had been made before he knew. I will give him that, but I did advise that took place.
Rick?
So that was my question, what change got made from the original budget to what's here now?
The 30-hour part-time person was cut down to, we figured it out for 20 hours a week instead of 30.
And that was the only change in.
And
As far as,
and we took out 3 full-time positions on the insurance. That was another change in the insurance.
what do you mean you took out 3?
You only have
You
two.
took out 1,
Right, and we put the stipend in.
right,
Yeah.
that's another
So we're
change.
not, oh, that's true. When
So
we
that
didn't
brought
budget
that
for the
down,
full
right,
insurance
right,
amount,
right.
yeah.
So that was the change to the insurance that you made?
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
didn't-
during
we
the
didn't
budget
budget.
meetings, you guys were kicking around all kinds of cuts to all kinds of articles. Some of them on the road, things were raises and insurance packages and things like that. That's why I'm asking.
Right.
So basically no change to insurance packages.
Correct, we just didn't budget for his insurance at full price because he doesn't
There was a
usually
change
take
to
it.
insurance too, in the stipend.
So that cut some off of that.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Right.
Did we cut any money off of that? So what cut the money was the 9,000 that Brad's referring to is the part-time hours. Okay.
And
Just wanna-
insurance.
And that piece of insurance. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we touched anything with the roads and the equipment.
We didn't as far as stand or anything.
Nothing on overtime, nothing on.
No, we
any of that
didn't
stuff.
adjust the overtime.
Further discussion?
I guess this is for Brad, on overtime, Brad. Are you, are you comfortable with, you're comfortable with that overtime number? It's, let me just make sure I get this straight with the overtime, I don't wanna misstate something. It's each full-time employee, which we have 3, is budgeted in for the winter road budget at 250 hours of overtime each.
Correct.
And 40 hours each in the summer.
I've upped that every year
You've upped
to
it.
actually come into line to where they were. Because every year, at the end of winter, we have to go beg, borrow, and steal to get more money put in a winter budget, because they always go over. When I started here, they only had 150 hours of budgeted time, and they were working 230, 240, 250, 270 hours of overtime. Every year. But every year, they went back and asked for more money. Didn't make a lot of sense to me. That's why, for the last 2 years, I budgeted 250 hours of overtime for each employee. So, that's where we're at for the overtime hours.
And if we have a mild year like this year, will we, would you suspect we
The
would
problem
use
is,
that amount of hours?
you can't go by mild year, you gotta go with, when did the storm occur?
Oh, yeah. I know.
Weekend, night, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we're definitely gonna be under budget this winter,
Don't say that.
significantly under budget, because we do not
Which
have
will dump
these.
back into surplus.
I'm sorry.
Which will dump back into surplus
Yes.
if you are. But yeah, when I don't mean to mistake mild winter either, because this winter we haven't had as
It's
much
bizarre,
snow, but it's
but it's
happened
more like it.
often, and you know, at
Long
inconvenient
storms.
times, and
Yeah.
2
It's
days
bizarre.
worth of snow, and you know, I understand that.
Right.
Doing my road, pain in the ass, but.
Brad? Can you tell us roughly what is left in that account, in your summer roads account? Do you have any idea?
I don't have it with me, but I could. As of the other day, it was 41,000.
41,000?
Yes, so we're right at 41,
Okay.
That's in snow and sand?
No, that's Article 11, summer road.
Winter.
Are we,
I mean,
are you in
I'm sorry.
winter or summer, Brad?
I'm winters,
Well,
Oh,
budget.
we were in summer, yeah.
yeah, we're talking summer.
Summer, I believe there's 67,
Okay,
67 or 60.
that would fit with my own personal,
Sorry.
yeah, I would agree that's probably what it is, yeah.
Yes.
But when do you switch over to summer?
April.
When winter ends, basically.
Perfect.
That's not a question to ask, because it's somewhere around the end of March. I mean, if we're not getting storms, as of April, we start back into the summer budget.
Thanks.
There's no clear date on that though, right? I mean, as far as the budget is good, not the work,
The
the
way
budget.
the two budgets are figured out, winter budget, I figure at 22 weeks, summer budget, I figure at 20 weeks, or I'm sorry, 30 weeks.
Can I give you the actual amount?
Yeah.
Unexpended in the summer budget as of 2/24, $67,565.68.
Wow,
Is that right? 67?
pretty good.
So we were under by that this summer, so.
Right, but we
Good
still
job.
have to finish until
April,
June
May,
30th.
From April to June.
Right. That'll
to
run
come out
from
of that.
April 1st
Oh, I see.
to
Yeah,
June
yeah.
30th will be the
I see.
remainder, but,
So it's not gonna be that amount, but it would be,
I'm sorry.
so it wouldn't be that amount, it would be something
No.
less than that, but.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Did I get that down?
Are we ready to vote? To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $245,413. All those in favor? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you're 9.
Karen, were you a yes or a no?
I was a yes.
Joe? Both of you?
Martha, yes or no?
Okay, sorry. I should have made checked boxes. And what were you? You didn't vote?
Those opposed?
I'll vote yes.
Okay.
10. Those opposed?
Those abstaining?
So we have to skip Article 12 because the selectmen are gonna rework it, so.
I don't know.
Did Ed vote?
Ed did not.
Eddie, did you vote?
I don't know.
Okay,
No.
I asked abstaining.
Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $15,000 and to authorize the selectmen to expend receipts as needed for the operations of the garage facility maintenance and operations. In 2019-20, we raised $15,000. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that the board recommend yes.
Second it.
Board make a yes recommendation?
Yep.
Discussion?
I believe this is where we cut another 5,000 and brought it back to what he had last year. What is, do you have what you asked for, Brad?
I asked for 16,000 last year and that's what I got.
Okay, so it's 1,000
Kind
less
of
than,
1,000.
yeah. So we did make a cut on that.
And I can tell you what's left in that account is $7,312. That one I know, Jackie.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but last year you had an overhead door and electrical work to be done
Irrelevant.
for that money. What do you got this year?
Irrelevant.
I can't hear you, Ed.
Last year you had electrical work plus a garage door.
Correct.
And what do you got this year to cover that 15,000? Last year was 16 because of that.
We have a lot of the lights in the shop are starting to be really, they're all original lighting. It's time to replace them. I'm hoping that I have enough left in this budget year.
Gonna do all rewiring too?
What's that?
You're gonna do the rewiring too?
I don't believe it needs it. It's still up to code.
We can buy a lot of lights for 15,000.
Well, he spent.
I'm sorry. I have such a cold, Ed, I can't hear.
Yeah, can't hear anything.
I says for 15,000 you can buy a lot of lights.
Yeah, but I can't buy $15,000 worth of lights, cause the oil comes out of that for the heating system, the electricity comes out of that, all the electricity for the salt shed across the street, the phone bill, all maintenance for the building comes out of that 15
Okay.
grand. It's not an additional 15 grand that we're at, all the bills come out of that.
Okay.
And I'm hoping this year to get the windows and those two doors replaced with what we have, so I won't have to do that next year. I believe I have enough left as long as we don't have some type of bizarre cold snap here. We
Okay,
should be
that's
able
what I
to
was
hold out.
asking.
I'm sorry?
That's what I was asking.
All those in favor of voting yes on, making recommendation yes on Article 13?
3, everybody.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. Anyone opposed?
No abstaining. Okay, you can tell me, do you want to count on these just like 6 to 5 or whatever? Or do you want names and everything all? Cause
Just
I
the
can't
count.
keep track of writing
No.
everybody's name
The
down
count.
every time here.
Count is fine.
I'm good, but I'm not that good.
Article 14, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $40,000 for the second of 3 payments on the new backhoe.
Excuse me, Gail.
I'm sorry.
That number is actually $32,138.50.
Okay, I got the 32.
$32,138.50.
Thank you. Article 14, to see if
For the
the,
second and third payment?
Yeah.
Yeah, cause I was gonna bring that up, because, well, in the last vote, it said $38,733, and now you're saying it went down to 32.
It's 32.
Now, this is gonna be 2 payments of that, or just 2 payments of that?
We've got 2 more payments to make, so this will be the second payment, and then next year we'll pay it off.
The second and third.
Right.
This 32,000 is just that 1 payment?
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
all those in favor?
We didn't have a recommendation.
Oh, yeah.
I
Do we
make
have
a
a motion?
motion, we vote yes.
No, we didn't,
Yes.
we didn't have a recommendation,
Okay.
everybody started talking.
I thought you did begin with.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to
But I didn't, so.
No,
I didn't
nobody
write it
did,
down.
no.
Okey dokey.
What are we doing?
I'm not sure myself.
I make a motion, we recommend yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Try it again.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Opposed? None. So now we need to make a recommendation, right?
Nope, we just
That's
did.
what we did. That's what we did, boy, I'm sorry. Confused. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $177,600 and to authorize the selectmen to expend any receipts as needed for snow removal and sanding. 2019-20 raised $178,974. Have a motion?
Make a motion, we make a yes recommendation.
Second.
Who was that?
That was Wendy.
Can you tell me where you made the cuts?
It was the same thing, it was only in the wage, and that's the only thing that we had. That wage, the part-time employees, and then the hours.
So, but what am I gonna do during the storm? If he's allowed 20 hours a week, you're not budgeting for that? I have to just make that up somewhere?
Now you have to keep him at
Or
20
send him
hours.
home after 20 hours?
It's not, it's
The
not,
overtime you
it's
can get
not,
back.
you can work them 20 hours, you can work them 2 hours, you can adjust the hours as you see fit as the road commissioner. The discussion was how many hours, or how much salary do we wanna put in, and we had to come up with an hour, but you're not restricted to 20 hours a week, Brad. You use it as you need it. So if you've got someone on vacation and you need to work the part-time or 40 hours, you've got that option.
I don't get it.
I have the option, but I don't have the money to pay him.
Well, not
Because you're
every
still
week.
paying that person that's on vacation.
That's right.
So it's gonna come,
So the next week, when you got your 2 full-times plus yourself, if then the part-time worker doesn't work because they worked 40 hours the week before.
I'm aware of that, but what are we gonna do in the winter time when, what if you get multiple storms in the same week and the next week you get more storms? And I mean, we all know that's how it happens.
It has to be adjusted.
Okay.
Jackie?
We can't recommend that this figure be changed, because this is what's being submitted to the finance committee, correct?
Technically, but the selectmen are here in front of you.
And we do have
You
3.
can get plead, but they can't change it
You
tonight.
can't change it tonight.
You could make a
But,
plea if you.
but you're working on 12 to submit to us to vote at a later time.
Correct.
So we could vote on, we could recommend to change this one and vote on it like we're gonna vote on 12 at a later time. Do
Can.
we need to have a discussion with Brad to see if maybe we need to ask the select board to increase this for him?
Do you mean
For the winter?
table it, Jackie, and table
They
it?
table it, yes, thank you.
Okay, and talk about it later, and we'll be having another meeting, I'm sure, so.
Well, it would be good if there was some sort of consensus. at
Well,
least
yeah,
from
I
the
know. Yeah.
Finance committee to recommend to the selectmen a different number.
Do we need to make a motion to do that?
Me?
No, okay,
Yeah, you should.
discussion.
What's the deadline for the warrant and budget to be done?
She hasn't given it to us actually, and I'm shocked, because usually we're right under the wire.
There's time,
Yeah,
there's plenty of
We're
time.
gonna meet again anyway.
Well, I know that, but
The warrant only has to be posted, we have to have a public meeting. And there has to be a 7-day notice prior to the public meeting. And then it has to be posted. So really, to be comfortable, it should be, it should be done by the first week in May.
okay.
That's not a hard and fast rule.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just to be comfortable.
I just know that she's always, well, we gotta get it to the printers, get it printed.
Well, and that's exactly what we're
Right.
doing here, but she hasn't told me what day yet.
Oh.
Tammy?
We're only talking $1,377 less. How much you paying them an hour?
No.
Because you're asking for 177.6, and it was 178.9.
With the increases and everything, it was up to 186,736.
Right,
That's
you're not seeing,
That's what you wanted?
right,
That's what I
that's
asked
what
for,
we're
is
questioning.
186,736.
Is
And
what-
most of that was because it changed the fuel, because we use about 75% of our fuel in the wintertime. Because all the trucks are on the road. And in the summertime, we use about 25%. And all I did was take the money out of the summer budget that we normally used and moved it to the winter budget when we use it. That was 85% of the increase. The other increases were, I put more in here for sand this year.
No, you put less in. Oh, you did personally,
Yes,
on your own budget then.
on my budget, the budget I presented. And then there was some increases in the insurance rates and vehicle equipment insurance.
But how many guys do you have on there, out on a regular storm, all told? How many people do you have working on a regular storm?
Normally 4,
Three for the big trucks, one for the one ton.
correct.
Kathy?
I'm confused. The number here then, Brad, is not the number that you submitted.
Correct.
And you said you submitted what, Brad?
I submitted 180, well, if we're using the 2.5% increase,
Yeah.
I submitted $186,736.
And Brad, were you aware of this change before tonight?
I haven't seen the figures. I was told my budget was cut, I did not know what the figures were.
Is it the consensus of the group to do what Jackie asked?
We've got a motion on the floor.
Oh, yeah,
What's the motion?
yeah, please, what's the motion?
Motion that we make a yes recommendation. I made the motion, Wendy seconded.
Any more discussion?
You want us to withdraw it, or,
No, I don't.
I mean,
I'd say vote it.
Vote it, okay, all those in favor?
For what?
To vote yes on Article 15.
Oh, okay, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Those opposed? 1. 8 to 1. 8 yes, 1 no. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $67,000 and to authorize the selectmen to expend any receipts as needed to reconstruct and pave the Dickdale Road from Dalbrook Road to the gravel portion. This will include boulder removal, reclamation of the current road, new culverts, new gravel base and base coat pavement of 2.5 inches after compaction. Any motion?
Make a motion, we recommend yes.
Second?
Make a motion,
Thank you,
to accept it as read.
It's already been done. Are you seconding it?
Joe.
Joe seconded
Oh, Joe did.
I'm saying yes.
You seconding?
Joe
It was
did.
already,
They made the
Oh,
motion.
Joe,
Oh, I didn't hear it, sorry.
okay.
Then I'll second it.
We're gonna have to.
I'll give you my ears, but it won't help.
That's it, we want hearing aids for the meeting.
We're gonna serve hearing aids with the next meeting.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a
Yes.
question for you. The bridge that washed out, the culvert that washed out before, isn't that in that same area? That
Yes.
just got redone?
Yeah.
So is it gonna be on both sides of that culvert, or one side?
Well, there was an area portion that was done up to like the top of the cemetery. And from the other side of Dowbrook Road down to the bridge is pretty rough.
Yeah.
It should be ground. We may not have to dig that side. Nothing in there is indicating that there's any boulders or anything, and we don't have any other culverts in that area. So we may be able to just get by with grinding that side, just putting some cover over it.
Payment on
It's
that.
definitely the other side though.
Yeah, that's
going all the way up, that's-
horrible, horrible.
Yeah.
That's the one that'll tear you apart.
So how far are you going up? How snow?
We're going right up to where it stops now, which is basically where that bus turnaround is at the top of the hill,
Okay, alright,
just past Mary Turner Road,
it is bad though.
Oh,
technically.
no question about
So about how far is that?
footage wise.
I think it's 3,400 feet. If I believe it's 3,400 feet. It's 33 or 3,400. I don't remember exactly.
More questions? All those in favor? Nine, 10, and 10. Those opposed?
Those abstaining? Thank you.
I'm glad I don't drive on every day.
Did you abstain? You voted. Oh my God, girl.
Okay. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to approve road department to salvage all scrap metal resulting from repairs to town equipment. Proceeds will be received and receipted by the clerk's office and will be used to replace broken tools or to purchase tools needed for the road department at the discretion of the road commissioner.
Make a motion, we make a yes recommendation?
Second.
Discussion.
What's that involved, Brad? What's that, what are we talking about when we say that?
We have 2 stainless steel spreaders down there.
That was on another
Right.
article.
Correct, that was on for the special meeting, this is also what that's speaking to.
This is scrap metal.
Oh,
So that's different than what we're doing, what, the special meeting on that?
Yes.
That's why I asked.
The other two are machinery, the other two are sanders, yeah.
The other two were Sanders.
I thought we voted on this before.
This we did
Yeah,
last
we
year.
voted on this last year.
We gotta vote it every
We
year.
gotta vote on that every
I don't know
year?
why we have to vote that again.
Me
Well,
neither.
it has to be voted every year.
It does?
We won't generate enough scrap iron.
I wouldn't
other
think.
than
How much
that
did you
dump
get
truck.
last year, Brad? How much did you get in the last year?
$764.
It's not bad.
helps.
And most of that's like our scrap off our, our plow blade changes and stuff like that, or brake parts that come off the trucks that we replace.
Your old blades and stuff like that. off the
Yeah.
trucks.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between this and the one at the special meeting? This one specifies where the money's gonna go. It's going back to the road department, discretion of the road commissioner. What about the article in the special
It's
meeting?
the same.
So
that part's the same.
money goes back to the discretion of the road commissioner?
Account that we established 2 years ago. We bought the lawnmower out of that.
Is there anything in that account now? Or
I'm sorry.
anything in that account now that you know
Yes,
about?
there is. I don't know exactly. I think it's around $2,200, give or take.
Yeah, am I correct that you'd have to, if you were gonna scrap a truck, you'd have to go to the board before you scrap the truck?
She said,
sorry, Martha.
is she correct in saying if you were gonna scrap a truck or something, you'd have to come to the board
Like you
first?
did with the sanders, like
Yes,
this is
yeah,
just
right.
for junk hanging around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Martha,
Well-
I'm sorry.
When it's time to get rid of the 1997, I'm gonna put out an RFP to hopefully attract, salvage trucking company, those kind of companies to come in and,
It should go out to bid, cause it has good.
Well, we shouldn't spend buku bucks just trying to get rid of it.
Well, it doesn't cost anything to put out a bid, though.
On the scrap
doesn't?
iron, do you haul that to a scrap yard, or you got
we
somebody that
hauled
comes
all
and
the
picks it?
stuff out from behind the shop.
Yeah.
We did last year, we hauled it over to Jay.
Okay,
That was our best bang they were offering
Yeah.
the most at the time.
yeah,
We didn't get much for the aluminum door, unfortunately.
well, yeah.
Yeah, it was down at the
Aluminum
time.
doesn't bring much in there.
So, can I
Martha?
ask one more question? So, when you go bring the scrap, and they give you a paper with how much they paid you,
Right.
you bring it to the money or whatever to Debbie, and
Right.
she puts it in the account, so we have a check and balance?
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All those in favor? Ten. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Thank you. Do we need to vote on Article 18? Or is that just for the selectmen? Back off.
You voted on it last year.
Okay, Article 18, to see if the town will authorize selectmen to expend the local roads assistance program funds for road reconstruction or rehab, 35.5 plus or minus.
Motion approved, yes.
I'll second.
Martha and Mindy. Discussion?
Any roads in mind for that?
You have any roads in mind for the LRAP money?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I was talking about Brad. Yeah, Brad, do you have any roads in mind?
Thank you. Well, this year we're gonna, with the remainder of the LRAP money from last year, we're gonna finish up the end of East Shore. And that'll complete
I thought
that,
that was done.
all but that 600 feet at the
Oh,
end.
by the intersection part?
Right, because by the time we got the culvert in, and the paving company could actually show, it was too late, in my opinion, to pave it. You wouldn't have gotten a good enough ground time to be down. I was afraid we'd tear it up. So that'll be done in the springtime. But there's enough out of last year's LRAP money left over to do that. What I wanna do, until I saw the end of Ridge Road a couple of weeks ago, Ridge Road is it has springs underneath it that are in tough shape. Lovejoy Hill Road is in real tough shape, since they did the logging up on top of that. So depending on what we find under Ridge Road, then we're gonna take some of that money and fix Ridge Road, do what we can there. The other money's gonna go up or onto Lovejoy Hill Road, see what we could do there. I know I don't have enough out of the LRAP to pave completely both of them, but
Right.
and it'll depend what we find out underneath for property. I mean, we know we got spring issues under both. Otherwise, those roads wouldn't have happened like they did. But I think the logging situation up on Lovejoy Hill is what destroyed it ultimately.
Brad, remember when Lovejoy was tore up?
Yes, and I still have that whole video and all the pictures.
So did they ever,
Not yet. And I think I'm gonna end up having to turn it over to the town's attorney because he quit talking to me.
okay,
I sent him a letter giving him 90 days. I sent him a letter giving him 90 days to respond to me because he just stopped talking to me.
yeah, that's been 4 years, he should have been talking to you,
Well,
4 years
and I
ago.
thought we were gonna be pretty amicable about this, but I have a feeling that the town's attorney's gonna end up having to deal with him, and we're gonna have to take him to court. Because they did cause significant damage on that road, and somebody needs to be held accountable. So,
Brad?
Somebody
and
local.
it shouldn't be the taxpayers, that's my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, that road was not beautiful by
Well,
any
there was
stretch of
flaws,
the
but it wasn't
imagination.
all bad.
And I'm not looking for Cross to pay the whole tab for the road, but they still need to be held accountable for the damage they did
yeah,
do.
they did. And they actually damaged the part that was good.
I'm sorry.
They damaged the section that was good.
Right, the one part of the road that was decent, they did, they crushed it up.
Yeah.
Was that cross?
Yes.
Cross,
Cross.
cross. Okay, thank you. Yes, Brett.
I just got a question about LRAP money. LRAP money is provided to us so we can maintain in the winter the west side of Worthley Pond, right? From a
It's what
28
the state pays the town for doing the maintenance.
Any
on it.
idea about what it actually costs us to plow that? I mean, it's definitely not over that, cause we.
No, it's not, but it's no, it's a pretty good deal for the state. They probably get that road done for about $15,000 to $20,000. That's what it cost us.
That was my next question. What do you figure it costs us? Now, is that, are you saying that because of labor,
And
Brad?
it's not, you know, I mean.
I know it's hard to pinpoint.
Right, and because, I mean, it's part of the route I plow, and, I mean, obviously I have the time going out and plowing it.
Right.
There's the sand on it, there's salt on it. Other than that, there's the wear and tear on the trucks, the cutting edges, et cetera, and the fuel. It's obviously a through fare. It's the longest road we plow in town.
That's my question is, if we didn't have that road to plow.
What would I plow?
No, well, yeah, that, no, could we plow with one less truck?
What's that?
Could we plow with one less truck if we didn't have that stretch of road to plow?
No, because, well, I mean, you have that side of town, the west, or east side of town, and then you have West Peru and Central Peru. And
You
there's
still
one
need a
truck
truck.
that does west side, there's one truck that does the central part of it, and there's one truck that does the east part.
Just wanna make sure it's cost.
I just wanna know which one you wanna beat to death first, I guess.
What do you mean cost effective? We don't have a choice.
No, that's what I'm asking. Do we have a choice?
No.
If you mean we can't deny the state? We can't make them plow that road and just say we're not gonna get, oh, okay. Well, that's a moot point then. I thought that was our decision.
It is our responsibility as the
Okay.
town,
And they're giving
and
us
they're
money.
generous
They're
enough to
throwing
throw us
money at
cash
us.
to do it.
Okay, well.
Don't worry, they'll
But that's what I've been
eventually
told.
stop wanting to pay us, so.
Yeah, then we'll be doing it on our
That's
ticket,
right.
right? On our dime. Well, yeah, okay.
Used to be the other side.
Right,
Yeah.
they used to have East Shore.
Really?
Yeah.
They put a little
Yeah, long
lipstick
time
on
ago.
that, and the town jumped at that, and didn't look
Not the
underneath it,
town,
and gave up the other side.
dummy us.
Article
I
18,
think it was at a special town meeting.
I think that's,
all those in favor? Eleven. Those opposed? Abstaining? None. So it looks like that's it, Brad, for you.
Okay.
nope, it's not.
I wanna see that.
For the last 29 years, I climbed in and out of those things, I just got a little rounder, that's all.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
All together.
The echo's better. Thank you for putting up with my deafness, I appreciate it.
You gotta get that taken care of.
Okay, Grampy.
Well, I'm kinda hoping to go away here
Well, you said that 2 weeks ago. Go to the doctor.
Oh. Thank you. Good evening, guys.
All right, are we ready to, you guys wanna go till 8 o'clock?
Yep.
See what we can do? I'll go
No,
later.
keep going.
8.
10.
You can finish.
I go in 10. Do we need to do Article 1?
I have a question about it though, if we're not gonna do
We
a
all
motion or
have.
anything on it.
Oh, don't ask me anything about that one. That's a Debbie
I'm
one.
sorry.
I don't have an answer.
Ask it.
Maybe-
Somebody might.
Kathy
Maybe
might
Dawn
know.
No, Dawn might.
What's the question?
Don might, Kathy might.
Overlay account.
Well, yep,
Well,
what's
how
the
much,
question?
how much should we put in?
I will ask it.
If we, you know, we probably should have a vote, I mean, have
Oh,
a
a
motion, yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
okay, and then we can talk.
Make a motion, we make a yes recommendation.
Yep, second.
Discussion, go Rick.
Yeah.
Overlay account, what's the difference in the overlay account and the surplus account?
The overlay account is used only for tax abatements,
Where's the money come
Refunds
from?
too.
taxes,
Yeah,
raised and
abatements,
appropriate.
How do we know how much goes into the overlay account?
The state has minimum and maximum.
It's in the
And-
formula.
And it's up to the select board to determine if they wanna go over 1%, 2%,
Okay.
up to 5% over.
Is it changed year to year, or does
No.
that stay pretty much the
Yeah,
same every year?
that formula's.
The formula stays the same, but the amount changes,
Because, yeah,
Right,
because,
5% because of your budget change.
because our budget changes, right?
depending on the selectmen. Some people used to like to have a high overlay because they figured that whatever you had would lapse to surplus if it wasn't used.
Does it? That's another
And-
question I
Right,
have. It
yes.
does?
It
Okay.
And
year.
Jim used, well, some people used to complain that you're just using that to increase surplus,
Well, yeah.
but
But in a situation where you have some revaluations that have been going on now, that they have an assessor,
Right.
your opportunities for
You
higher
want it a little
abatements maybe.
Right,
your
right.
risk
Well, that's
is
kind of what
higher,
I was
yeah.
wondering too, is, I see a lot of abatements being voted on now that weren't being voted on like a year or so ago, so I'm assuming that that's increased due to the
Revals,
revals
yes.
that happened.
And I think with the overlay currently is 68,000, some round number for this
Okay,
year.
that was kind of what I wanted
this
to
year.
know, how
that's
much
what it
is
is.
in there.
See, that is high compared
That's
to what
quite
it
a lot,
usually is.
right.
Right.
It's usually around 30.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
True,
another
but-
30,000.
But they had foresight and increased it.
That's right.
depending-
I don't blame
You had an
them.
unknown.
That's right.
So Raquel, when do you know how much that figure is that you will be shelling out for the overlay for abatements and refunds for this fiscal
We
year?
do that when we set the mill rate, don't we? Isn't
Yeah.
that
No,
what it is?
no,
No?
no.
See, I don't know
No,
anything about this piece.
let me, hold on. You know what your limit's going to be when you set the mill rate.
Okay, that's what.
How
it
much of that you dispense will be dependent on how much you say yes to abatements.
is. Right, but I think he was asking when we decide
At
what
what
to put
point?
in there.
Yeah,
Okay,
at
so
what
I was
point?
right when we set the mill rate,
Right.
mill rate.
Okay,
See, I
so
didn't
that's when you know
something.
the amount of that. That's the only amount that I couldn't figure out on the whole.
Yeah.
Right, that's when you know how much. Yep.
Okay.
I guess I knew more than I thought.
Well, because the reason I asked that, Raquel, is that you know this much about it, that is a deduction that you can take off your LD1 levy limit calculation.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking that, in order to figure out that, which is gonna be a question I'll ask you at some point.
I have a headache.
I'm just prepping, I gave you an email, told you I was gonna ask that.
And I ignored it.
I know you did. But I'm still gonna ask it.
Any other questions about Article 1? All those in favor?
There is no figure yet, you don't figure that until taxes.
9.
But they
Those
always have an
opposed?
overlay account, Eddie, that gives the, abatements and that.
Nobody opposed.
So that must mean 3 abstained.
Any abstentions?
If you didn't,
Are you abstaining?
if you
Ed?
didn't go with it or against it, you abstained.
Things like family choices.
I can't give a blank check.
Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $51,843 and to authorize the selectmen to expend any receipts for the maintenance and operations of the fire department. 1920 raised $48,855. This year, the proposed allocation is $51,843. Selectmen have recommended yes. I move Article 2 be passed as read, so obviously.
Yes, recommendation.
Thank you. Do I hear second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe.
Discussion?
Yes.
Is this the figure that was submitted by the fire chief?
Yes.
There was no cuts to this one? Thank you.
I think in the packet there's a paper.
To see exactly what it was that they requested.
What Bill,
When he broke it down.
yeah, he broke it down. Just, if I have- you can have mine if you want.
In what you gave us today?
Yeah, looks like that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I might have that.
But it's basically what's on the warrant
Oh, there it
anyway.
is, thank you.
Yeah. The only, it says increase by $3,336. That's about the only difference.
Is that the 6%?
That's 6%. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? 8. Those opposed? 1. Oh, wait. Can we do yeses again, please? I think I missed Ed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I did miss them. Opposed? 1.
Gail, can I ask a question? John, can I ask why? You don't have to share, I'm just curious.
I haven't had a whole lot of chance to look at it.
Oh, okay.
But I see the fire chief stipend is $4,000 for each year, and that's good. But the fire chief stipend over here went up to $51.74.
That includes workers' comp and social security.
I just find that hard to believe.
Well, Tammy, you got the workers' comp number, right? You had it. That's actually why I had to pull
It's
that.
not just
Well,
his
no,
workers'
no,
comp.
No, it's the
that-
fire department.
I'm sorry, it doesn't.
Why?
Because there's a line item here for mimic workers' comp. Separate line item.
I'm not, which one are you looking at?
Bill's
You're
sheet.
looking at
Oh,
bills, but
you're
if-
looking at
but
bills.
If you look at the warrant, you don't see that.
They added it into Bill's,
We put the total
Stipend.
numbers together.
Oh, it's not in the stipend. It's
That's-
more
I know.
than stipend.
it's confusing.
Yeah.
I think we ought to make an article that every freaking board of selectmen that gets in here doesn't change how this is done.
No, you can't do that.
Ed?
This
Why wasn't
sucks.
this in
Okay.
Article 2?
I'm sorry? I didn't hear you.
Why wasn't Article 3 with Article 2?
It's a
We're
separate
talking
thing.
the same place.
Yeah, but it's a separate,
Yeah, it's a separate,
Separate thing.
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
different, yeah, no, it's separate.
It came in later, after
Okay,
Article 2 was already there. He brought it in at a later date, and
okay.
I'm assuming that's why. Any more discussion on Article 2?
So basically, the only increases there when you look at the breakdown is the 3,000 for the hose.
For the fire hose tank.
And also the insurance went up a little bit.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. I'm gonna call for a vote. Those in favor? Did I do
You
that?
did
I
already.
did it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
You already did, I just wanted, I just was curious.
Yeah.
Do they have it corrected Article 3?
Yes, Gail has the corrected one.
Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $23,100 for the purchase of 21 self-contained breathing apparatus air bottles to replace expired bottles. Select board recommends
This,
yes.
do you have the article that I gave you, cause it goes on? I gave you the corrected one last night.
I don't, oh, on Bill's sheet. I have that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah.
Oh, so I need to read, the rest of it.
Yeah,
Pending the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Award. If the grant is awarded, the matching monies would be taken from this article and the balance to Fire Department Reserve account. So that's gonna be on
correct.
the June one,
Correct.
the
Yeah,
rest of it,
yeah.
okay. Right. So your motion?
Make a motion, we make a yes recommendation.
Not yet.
I'll second. Discussion? Rick?
I tried to ask Bill this, I'd rather ask Bill this, but my questions around this are so the bottles are, the dates are expiring now. So when is it that we gotta drop dead stop using them and they can't be used again? Cause there's been I've heard some rumors that, you can continue to use those and stuff, so is there one of my questions is when do they stop being able to be
Is
used?
there a fireman in the room?
No, but I can answer that question.
What is
Each bottle has its own expiration date,
right, just like a propane.
depending on when it was manufactured.
Right.
And depending on the bottles, the old metal bottles, you could hydro test them every 5 years
And recert them.
and resort them.
Right.
And I think you get 30 years out of them.
Okay.
Now the newer bottles that are hydrocarbon, you can't.
Can't do that.
You gotta
Can't
license
recert
it.
them. They're it. Right.
That's it. then I don't know what they've got. I expect they've got carbon.
So, okay, so I just wanted to get an understanding of if we had to buy these all in 1 year. That's what I'm kind of driving at with this.
I agree.
How many firefighters go into a house when it's burning and use the bottles at the same time?
Well, you got 2 anyway and 2 on the out.
Right.
Yeah, so you got 4.
So you got 4 of them.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if we could split this in 2 years. That's what I was trying to drive at.
Yeah.
But
I believe all of ours, if I understood this bill correctly, that all of our bottles are expired. We're not using our bottles. We are using bottles that have been loaned to us from other departments.
that was my other reason for wanting to split when we buy them. So we could split up the, when they all expire, we don't have to, when they all expire again, we don't have to spend another, whatever they'll be then, 50,000. So we can kind of filter them in, but I didn't know if that was possible. I wanted to ask that.
I think that's a good idea. We can't do it this year, Rick, but,
Yeah.
you know, budget in some point along the way, 2 or 4 bottles every year.
Well, that's kind of
Or
what
every
goes back to the question someone just
rotation.
asked. Why isn't it in the fire department budget? Because that would be a good thing maybe to
Because
have.
it's for the grant.
I know, but Bill's already said the grant is history, pretty much. He said that we're not going to get that grant because they go by the number of fires that we have.
Yeah, hold on.
I think we were talking about 2 different grants.
Yeah, they're out.
Okay.
Isn't it the same grant, but he's reapplied again?
I don't know. All I know is he spent the last 2 weeks at the f***ing typewriter on this grant thing again.
Well, maybe there is a chance. See, I've been talking. That's why I wanted to talk to him, Kathy, because the last time I talked to Bill, he said this is what he said about this grant. He said we were denied the grant because they go by the number of, unfortunately, they go by the number of fires that you have in your municipality, and ours are low, which is good, right? But he didn't see, he didn't have a lot of hope we were going to get that grant, but something might have changed.
I don't even know what the grant is that he's working on. I just know that it's very particular. Somebody called him back this morning because, I mean, he'll get it all done, and then some place will say, it'll light up red and say,
you didn't do something.
You didn't do something, but it doesn't tell you what part is wrong. I mean, it was as simple as
maybe this is a different
there
grant.
was like some place he had to put in a percentage, so he put in 5%, and he put the percent sign. You weren't supposed to put the percent sign. And then another one was the zip code. They wanted the 4 digits at the end, but they didn't have a place for it. But that's what they wanted. It's just, and the guy said that called him back said, "You aren't the only one." He said, "It's ridiculous the way
Sounds
they."
like it might be a different grant, and
I don't.
If it is, I applaud him for going after
That's
it.
right.
You know, but-
Bill goes after a lot of grants.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
he
he did come to the meeting and then he said he knew why they didn't get this grant for the air bottles because
Calls.
not enough calls, and he said the fireman, this is quote word for word, the fire marshal said he was fine with what he had, and that they could still be used.
Well, I don't know.
Not if we're using some from other places. But again, too, I'm sure you're talking so many per person, right? So many bottles per person.
No, isn't it just 1 per person?
Well, no,
But
you
you
need more
need
than
2
one.
people inside the fire, 2 people
Right, when you
outside.
got, when you got 2 people in, you got 2 people out, so you got
Right.
4 to start with.
Right.
And you better have at least 4 more in case they
Ready
have
to
to be
go.
longer.
Right.
That's
So
what-
I know. So that's 8. So
Yeah, you
then
got
if
10.
you had half of this, that's 11 and
Yeah.
half, whatever it is.
10
You know.
bottle, yeah.
I'm
So
sure he's got it figured out. I know that.
that's
I've
why I
heard
was
him talk
wondering
about
if we
it,
could
but-
split it, just to
Yeah, then
that'd
get
be a good
the
idea.
exploration dates
Yep.
separated,
Right.
and also could we get by a year with that? Maybe we can't. Maybe
we
Bill would
should
say
ask
no
him.
way. We use them all the time. I don't know.
I told him that if you guys had any questions for his articles, we'd hold them and tell him to be at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
Yeah,
So
can't
we
wait
should-
people,
we should
put it on,
Could we do? Would
Yeah,
that be a
right.
big deal to do
table
that?
it for now.
Table it,
Yeah, can we just?
okay, I'll withdraw
Table
my
Do we have a
recommendation.
consensus to just
table it.
table it for
Yeah.
now? Okay, good idea. I'm sorry, Raquel.
No, that's
What-
okay.
That wasn't intentional this time.
Ah.
This time. She did that to me before.
No, way.
Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $2,000 and to authorize the selectmen to expend any receipts as needed for general assistance.
Thank you for the report, yes. I'll second
Yes, Wendy seconded. Any discussion?
Is this account drained every year?
No.
No.
He's only
Hardly
got
ever.
$100 out of it this year so far.
And it's reimbursable, you're right.
From the state.
From the state, 50%.
50%.
Thank you.
Did you vote?
We didn't vote yet, no, go ahead.
Yes, Rick.
How is it dispensed?
An individual has to come in and make application. Once they make application, our general assistance specialist, who in this case is Sandy, has to call the Department of Health and Human Services. They go into their database and determine whether or not the individual's received any other assistance. And only after the Department of Health and Human Services does its review, they'll call back and say, yes, town, you can provide general assistance, or no, town, you can't. So it's in coordination with the Department of Health and Human Services.
Do they also, when they say yes, say an amount?
Yes, for example, we've had 2 individuals come in this winter asking for fuel assistance. They wanted, they had no oil. After making calls to the fuel companies in and around, the companies said, we won't make a deliver for less than $100. And DHHS says you can only give them 50. So Sandy talked to me and she called DHHS as our specialist, and they said, in that case, because we're in Western Maine and there's not a lot of competition, we'll agree to $100. So it's based really, it's controlled and dictated by the Department of Health and Human Services.
Just thinking back to the offer that we had to take cases, loads of diapers.
Believe me, we don't wanna do that.
No, I was just wondering how that would all work with this.
We'd have to appropriate a lot more money,
Yeah, I think so, right?
definitely. That can make towns go broke.
We need to bring that up.
Remind me.
Any more questions?
No.
I wouldn't think so, cause you never know, what's, it goes back to, my opinion anyway, it goes back to surplus, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and you don't know if somebody's gonna have I don't know.
You said you were looking at making cuts in
I
other
am,
places.
I
I'm
am,
just
I am.
asking, since you're,
He's gone.
Yeah.
Raquel,
Yes, sir.
is this one of the accounts so we can overspend?
Yes.
Yes. I believe so.
Well, maybe that-
Yeah, don't have a choice if it happens.
Right.
I don't know.
So if we did cut that down, we could overspend if an emergency came up.
Yeah, but where's it gonna come from?
I wouldn't, no. But
Better to
it-
have a cushion just in
that's right.
case.
That's right.
You never
but-
know what's
but
gonna happen.
Yeah, we never.
You never know what's gonna happen. If it got over $2,000, you could
If you
over.
had, and exactly what you just brought up could happen, you could have an influx of people coming in that would tap into this, and then you're gonna go back to the voters, and, 2,000 is not that much.
You
to
can have a
in-
fire
it's-
that wipes somebody out,
That's
and then
right.
you need some help,
Yeah.
so you don't know.
But knock on wood, we've never had, as far as I know, 10 years we haven't.
You've been lucky.
It's been very minimal since I've been on the board.
That was gonna be my
At least
question
10 years
to
now.
you, because you kinda know
That's
this.
the guy.
Have we ever come close to having to spend this 2,000
Not
in the
in
last?
30 years.
No.
I'm just not, I'm just thinking, I know $500 isn't much, but
Mostly it's gone back to surplus over the last 25 years, according to the town reports. I think we've spent $6,000 in 25 years. The rest of it's all gone back to surplus.
thank you.
So do you agree with that? Because I used to argue every year. Why?
Right,
Why do we do that if we know it's just gonna go in surplus?
right.
Yeah.
Cause you
And
don't.
it's always the same arguments, so I just don't
Better than
argue.
better than
I'm
going to a
arguing-
You don't
vote
argue
again
anymore.
now.
I'll
No.
start then.
Costs more to go to a vote for it again than.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And you'd have to have a special town meeting. You couldn't wait for the annual.
Well, one more point about it, it goes towards a LD1 deduction as well, right?
You would have seen, yeah, I am so sorry I haven't told you about that.
Actually, it's a state law, so.
Yeah, but you would have known it.
Hey, well, at least somebody else is understanding it.
Yeah, that's right.
alright, Article 4.
It is.
You didn't vote, did we?
No.
Okay. Yes votes to authorize $2,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 11. Any no's? Nope. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $54,213 for the town clerk tax collector treasurer office 2019-20, wage 64,752. Selectmen recommend yes.
Make a motion, we make a no recommendation?
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Was this total changed by the select board from what was submitted from the town clerk?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we have that, can we have the total that was submitted by the?
You know, I get right there on that paper I handed you, last year's vote.
That's not what she's asking.
Yeah, she's asking about this year, what Debbie submitted, what they cut from it. I think that's what she's asking.
Yes.
We cut hours from the deputy's clerk
And the stipend, and the insurance
and
stipend.
the insurance stipend, the same as we did with the road department.
I have another question.
Kathy?
Why do they get paid, and I know this has been for years and years and years, why do they have to get paid to be to be the registrar?
Same reason you get paid to be fire warden.
Because it's from the state? Is it from the state?
I can kind of answer your question. It was either 2 or 3 years ago. I think I've shared this before.
Okay.
At a selectmen's budget meeting, Vera, it was the last year she worked, she just said, because it used to be what, $200?
Yeah.
It was either $100 or $200, and she said it needs to be $500. So the board said, okay.
Oh.
And that is exactly the size of it.
That's right.
Why, were you here too?
No.
That was exactly the size of it.
Well,
Rick.
I'm glad I
So,
made a no recommendation.
Just so I understand this, that's strictly cuts, we didn't move anything that we used to pay in that, okay,
Correct,
okay, so that's 16% drop in that account.
right, we cut the deputy down to 12 hours a week.
I remember that discussion,
Yeah.
Which doesn't meet people very.
I was gonna say, how'd that go over?
It went over like a lead balloon, but you know.
When you say people, citizen,
No, just the
Office.
one person that's, yeah.
unaffected
Beep.
person.
We had to have a conversation about how cuts don't always make everyone happy, but they are what they are, and we make do with what we have.
And a major cut in the health insurances, we didn't put in for full health insurance, we just put in the stipend.
And that was because you,
So we put in
understood
before.
that you didn't have to, right?
Well,
Is that what that discussion
She
was?
doesn't take she and Brad both don't take the insurance, they both have insurance elsewhere. This past year, we paid them 5,000 as a buyout, we dropped it to 2,500, we cut it in
Okay,
half.
that, I meant to ask that during Brad's portion, so that's another cut we made in
Brad's.
Brad's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I thought you were gonna do that, but I didn't hear any
no,
discussion.
that's what I said in the health insurance.
Tammy alluded to it, but she didn't come right
I
out.
said stipend.
Yeah, I didn't, yeah, you did, Tammy, I just didn't
I
understand
did,
what,
yeah, I
what
did
part of
say
the stipend you were talking about.
Nobody elaborated and I didn't go any further.
Nope, good, I'm glad you.
Ed, did you have a question?
Yes, where's that $500 go to register voters?
Clerk, Debbie.
Goes to Debbie.
Okay, he receives that.
It doesn't have to be Debbie, it can be,
It doesn't,
somebody else could be.
It could be 3 people.
right.
Yeah,
Do they have to split?
could be the finance manager.
She wouldn't give up the post.
It's not up to her, it's up to the select board.
Wanna be it?
Yeah, want to join me?
Sure.
Which volunteers?
There we go.
I'd like to take the vote on Article 5, all those in favor
Of a no recommendation.
of a no recommendation, thank you.
Can I ask one more question? Why would you want a no recommendation on that? Where, I just don't. where it
Because
cuts
I
so much.
disagree
What's
with some of the stuff, I disagree with the health insurance, I disagree.
Disagree that it's available, or disagree that the number is cut? What's the disagreement?
Oh, I disagree with the amount.
You think it's too low?
No.
You think it's too high?
So why is that, Kath? No, why?
Well,
would-
and I
is it
think the
same or
position
different?
I think the position should not all be, if, and I know we've voted on it before, but I don't think that the same person should hold all 3 positions.
No.
And if that person didn't hold all 3 positions, we wouldn't have to provide health insurance. Or a stipend for health insurance.
true
We don't
enough,
have
but.
And it's not right that the same person does all three of those jobs. There's no accountability.
Is the health insurance the same policy and the same thing, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
As the road departments,
Yes, it's all the same.
it's all the same?
Mhm.
And we didn't make changes to the road departments, right?
Correct.
We talked about it, or you talked about it in your
Well,
budget
we
meeting.
didn't make changes.
The way you talked,
Treating the road commissioner and the clerk the same way, they're elected officials.
Right.
And
They're
which
both-
is different than the crew on the
That's
road.
right.
Okay,
Correct.
that's what I was trying to get at,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dues, education, mileage, 2,500.
Yes, and I can say that very little of that so far this year has been used.
Yeah, I
Ed has
didn't
a-
look,
Ed has a question, can I come back to you? Ed?
Who is covered for 34,837?
That's Debbie's.
Who is covered on that insurance?
Debbie.
Debbie is covered for that?
That's her wages.
That's the wages.
It's about
It
the
says
health
health
in-
insurance.
No, the
Oh,
next
no,
line.
it's down below. I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
Rick,
I screwed up.
you had another question?
I've never looked at the mileage of the town clerk. I do watch the mileage of the road commissioner because it's provided to me, is the only reason why I'm not singling Brad out for mileage or anybody else, but, so I have an idea what the road commissioner has used the last 3 months, cause I have that, so I extrapolated that out to a year's worth and, it's actually, this year it would be, somewhere around,
Between $1,100 and $1,200.
yeah, it would be like $1,475
What?
if it continued for the 3-month average that I have. I'm just saying that because that gives you an idea that it's not a huge amount of money, but it's
More than it should be.
yeah. So I don't know if hers is less. I would assume she travels less, but I don't know that.
Debbie,
Than the road commissioner.
where would she travel?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm assuming she travels.
Last Tuesday, Vera had to work the office because they had to go
Oh, she had
For training.
right, so that they get paid mileage
Right.
for that or something.
She gets
I don't
paid
think
mileage
she
to go to
goes
the bank.
to a lot.
But Brad goes running for parts and stuff like that. That's why his
They post
travel
office.
is
Right.
more. So I would assume hers is a lot less. I'm
always
just
did
trying to get an
too.
idea if that's a valid number.
Mike.
If they don't use that dues, education, mileage, does that go into surplus?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Karen?
Carol, did I hear you say that, you don't actually have to provide a stipend for the health insurance?
Right, for neither official.
So what do we do?
Because we've contacted MMA and asked them about how to proceed, because the town has, in the past, consistently provided either health insurance or mileage. And
Or
a stipend.
Yeah.
And what they've said, it especially for Brad, because he's in the last of his 3-year term, that the select board should continue with the stipend, because that's the way past practice essentially creates a contract with an individual, and therefore we should continue that. We had more leeway with Debbie because she's in the second of her 3-year term, but we felt that it was important to treat both elected officials the same and reduce their stipend at the same time.
But if you chose to make it 0, you could?
We could. Legally, we could, except with Brad, he might have a valid argument for us not to do that because he's in the last of his 3-year term.
But he's running again.
Well, we haven't decided how we're gonna handle that for the elected officials in the new year, and I think that we only put $2,500 in, but we're gonna reconsider that at Monday night's meeting, how to handle that. What we just found out a week ago today or yesterday, was that, because we have a problem, it's not a problem, it is a problem, with the road commissioner, because although he's an elected official, he, and the reason this all came up, let me go back, is because of Fair Labor Standards and the increase in January, and whether or not we have to pay overtime to our road commissioner and to our clerk. That's how this all came up. So all these questions, we started asking MMA for clarification. So in the past, I don't wanna speak for prior boards, but the assumption was that the clerk and the road commissioner, because they worked 40 hours a week, were entitled to the same benefits under the personnel policy. That's not true. But we just found that out as a result of investigating whether or not we are required as a town to pay time and a half after 40, or benefits or anything else. So we're just working through that now, and a lot of questions you might have, we don't have answers to yet, because we're still trying to figure out where to go and how to treat each of the employees and the elected officials. So we found out, for example, Debbie gets life insurance, and that was because it was voted on in a warrant previously. So she gets life insurance, but none of our other employees do. So those are the kinds of things we're trying to shake out, and it's kind of a new area to explore, and because of past practice, we have to be very careful and we have to walk very softly.
So Carol, you.
I don't like it when you ask me questions.
So Carol, you
I
did
don't
say,
like
well,
when you ask
but you answered cordially. So you just said that technically we don't have to pay the road commissioner position overtime over 40.
We do if he works it.
It's a little different because we have a working.
He's a working commissioner.
Okay.
You could
salaried either.
If you go back into, I know you don't have access to it, but if you go back into the MMA manual and you look at the structure of how a town operates that has a select board with no administrator or town manager, what you're going to see is a straight line from the voters to the clerk. But what you're gonna see for the road commissioner is that you not only have a line from the voters, but you have a line from the select board. So the road commissioner is treated differently in how wages and benefits are considered for the road commissioner than they are for the clerk. Because the clerk is strictly you guys' responsibility in terms of wages and benefits.
Yippee-i-o.
And technically, the road commissioner, being elected, he could actually hire somebody to have his working position at the garage, and he could just be the commissioner and run the department.
Well, only if you budget it. You're in control of his budget.
In control, but he doesn't have to have.
That's
He
still
doesn't.
paying.
He doesn't have to be out in the ditch.
Right.
He doesn't have to be plowing the road. That's just.
He can hire a
he's
road foreman.
That's right. He's a working. That's why he gets paid the overtime.
He still
And
has
Debbie
to answer
doesn't.
to you though.
Okay, that's the distinction.
That's the difference.
You still have say over him, regardless of whether
Some,
he's elected or not.
but not,
Oh, yeah, you do.
not as if we had hired him.
True. But
All
he's
our
still.
other road commissioners all got paid the same way.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Hourly.
understand that, but we've got clarification now
So
on the
why
law.
would you change it now?
Because
the
we
law.
got clarification from the law.
Kathy?
Who do we get our health insurance through?
Go ahead,
Mimic,
No.
no,
Tammy,
Tammy.
isn't it through you, Tammy?
No, it's not
No.
for Tammy.
Health- health insurance?
I thought it was the health that went through you.
Maine Municipal,
Maine
That's
Municipal.
Mimic.
Oh,
no.
When I
Oh, that's
worked,
workers' comp.
Yeah,
I'm
Mimic-
sorry.
Mimic is cool.
when I worked here, everybody got life insurance through their health insurance.
yeah, went all
What's your
through
point?
MEHT.
You said that Debbie was the only one getting life insurance.
She has a separate policy. It was voted in years ago.
We used to have income protection that we paid for out of pocket back when I was there. Rick had it back then too. Income
So
protection.
the other employees don't have life insurance through their health insurance anymore?
I don't
There
know
might
if
be
that-
there might be a basic thing built in, but hers is an addition.
it's $9 a month.
I know, but it's the idea. Can that be changed?
Well, if it was a
Has to go to
warrant,
the
we
voters.
can't change it, the select board can't change it, cause it went to
It went
the
out to
voters, and the voters voted to approve life insurance for the,
So you
If
have
she
to-
was smart, she'd still do it the way that Vera and Olga used to do it. Their wages are this amount of money, plus health insurance, plus the life. End story. Then the rest of the town office, town clerk, treasurer, blah, 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 all came in under that, but there was always a separate article.
She didn't have a
For that.
choice. It's the boards that keep changing this.
Right, but I mean, that's what I'm saying, that's why back then, I think Vera had life insurance back then too.
Oh, I know she did,
And I
yeah.
don't remember if Olga did or not.
So you guys couldn't take that line out of this budget if you wanted to?
Life insurance?
No,
No, because we voted on
No,
that citizens.
no, that's not, yes, you can.
I mean, for the next
The-
year.
This article, Article 5, says spend this amount of money.
Yes.
It's up to the board to spend it however they want. Previous articles for the town clerk had specified certain amount for hours worked,
That's
certain
right.
amount for life insurance.
So this could be taken
specified
out.
vacation schedule
Right, because Vera.
and
had
holiday
life
schedule.
insurance too.
There's no article here that does that.
Not anymore.
We need to look at that then, because the clerk is not entitled to any of the benefits in the personnel policy, meaning holidays, bereavement leave, anything.
Well,
They
if
all
I
work
remember
on it.
right, I saw some warrants come across here that even the part-timers got holiday pay.
Yeah.
They get 2 days, they get Christmas and July for it.
Is that in the personnel policy?
Yes, it is,
It is.
it is.
So why does Debbie get paid for holidays if she's not entitled to them?
Because it's in her budget. Her budget is for $34,000, regardless of whether she works or not, or regardless of whether there's a holiday.
Salary.
It's a salary.
Salary.
She gets a salary.
Is she salaried? Because I've heard she is salaried, and I come to another meeting, she's not.
I know.
And if she is, then she's not.
That's because we're still working with MMA to get clarification on what an elected official is entitled to and what they're not entitled to. And some of the conversations we had before, we didn't have a clear understanding of what the responsibility of the board in the town was.
So,
And I'm not sure that we still do, to be perfectly
I know I
honest with you.
don't. Jackie?
Can I make a recommendation that this article be tabled for further discussion because I think some of us are thinking some of these can be cut more and removed out, and that we need to make that recommendation to the select board to change those figures.
are you guys planning to review this article again?
Probably not.
So, even though you've just said that a lot of these, there's nothing in there that says that she's salaried or how many hours she has to work or how many vacations she gets or it includes life insurance or health insurance, you guys are still just honoring all of that?
You've gotta give the employee something, because who the hell's gonna want the job if you don't provide anything? I mean, that's a full-time job. I mean, she should get it. And trust me, I'm not the #1 biggest fan, but you gotta give her a couple weeks vacation.
Oh, I
You gotta
understand
give her a couple things. You gotta give her the holidays. I don't know how you could look yourself in the eye if you didn't give her the holidays and the vacation.
I understand that, but
All the other elected officials in Rumford get the holidays off.
She does, she would. She's gonna get it.
Well, that's
She
not what
gets
you're saying now.
She gets this, yes it is.
No,
The
because
sa-
you said you
the
would
salary, the salary is, I said that she's not entitled to anything in the personnel policy. What I also said is that, what I also, look, I don't know what Rumford does. My concern is making sure that people and the taxpayers of Peru are treated fairly and that they understand how the select board puts together the budget. We've just, as I said, come up with verification and confirmation from MMA about how to treat our elected officials. That's different than the way they've been treated in the past. The wages at $34,837 is for 52 weeks, regardless of whether the individual works 40 hours or 32 hours, regardless of whether it's a vacation week, sick leave, or there's holidays.
Always has been.
Ed?
Always has been.
Ed? Go ahead.
we're talking elected officials, now we're also talking about Brad.
No, we're
Now,
not.
what's gonna happen with Brad if you wanna make him just a foreman and not a worker? We've always had a worker,
We're
that
not doing
position.
that. We're not doing that.
Irrelevant.
We're not gonna do that.
Oh, okay.
Do you wanna withdraw your
'Cause
motion?
I thought we were going there and it's like, okay.
Tammy?
'cause
I have a
knew
question.
That practice would have brought us back to something else.
And finish first.
Okay.
In the warrant article where it says elections, the 4,000, what's that for? That's not including ballot clerks, that's all in a separate thing, or is it ballot clerks?
It is ballot
ballot
clerks,
clerks, yeah.
and it's renting the machines as well. And
Okay.
because the state has required the,
Yeah, we have to use.
yeah, we have to use two
Yeah.
machines.
Okay, that's, I just didn't know if they, how that was all configured in there.
I just wanna say that 2 of us ballot clerks don't take any money for that.
Oh, you don't understand. You said no, that's the worst.
What are we gonna do here?
Rick?
Well, I just have one more question about the insurance.
I know.
If you decided, and you haven't yet, if you get that clarified, rock solid, and you decided to make some sort of change there, is it feasible to make a change in health insurance without taking health insurance away? Less, like, for years, my health insurance got poorer and poorer, and, you know, for my benefit. I paid
More money.
I paid more money, the policy was worse, I paid more for deductible, plus we paid part of the cost, monthly cost of the policy. So, insurance in general in this town is paid 100%.
Only for 2 employees, the road, two employees, both road department employees. That's all.
That's all,
Correct, because
Yeah.
Debbie and Brad don't take our insurance.
you take the buyout,
Correct.
it's
That's the
$5,000.
stipend.
It's to 2,500.
Now you've cut it 25, okay.
It had been discussed not to give them anything for it. My fear, if we went from $5,000 stipend to nothing, why wouldn't they just say, well, the hell with it, I'm gonna take the insurance? And then we've gone from paying not the whole premium to the whole premium, when they really don't even need it, they can use it as a secondary insurance.
But you just said we're not entitled to pay, we don't,
We don't have to,
right.
but I just don't know how you justify that if they're actually they are, even though they're elected, they're an employee of the town.
No, they're not.
Well, I know you argue that, but they are, so.
They are, because
They
if they get laid off or don't get elected again, they can't draw unemployment.
I'm not gonna argue, I just can't treat people like that.
Yeah, and there are other avenues to get insurance when you make under a certain amount of money. You can get help from
Yeah, I just
Care Act, for example.
think
And
that,
that ain't cheap either.
I just think that the
Trust me.
$10,000 that we pay, because I believe it's 10,000 a
75.
person, right?
Is that
10,000 a person is what we pay for
It's
insurance?
10,040 or something like that. It's
Yeah.
over $10,000. So we could in theory go from $5,000 to $20,000 if they chose to.
Adding
Take
to
the
one.
insurance.
And if you chose to give it to them.
Right.
That would have to be what happened.
Either one of them will take it. They've got a good rate the way they are.
So what are we gonna do? We're gonna just table this for now?
They
Or what
don't.
are we
They
doing?
don't anticipate making any changes.
Yeah, why take it?
So we might
Oh,
as
I
well.
thought somebody wanted to know what Debbie had asked for.
I did,
Okay,
and
Jackie.
I didn't get that figure. You're
The
correct.
cuts, the only thing we actually cut in that article was the wages
For the
because
deputy.
of the deputy clerk. It went from, I think she.
9,000 and something.
Yeah.
No, it went from 13 down to 9.
13.
Oh,
Yeah, it was 13.
So it was that and then the stipend, that was the only changes?
Yes,
So that's
So
the
roughly it's
2,500.
10,000.
$2,500 change in the health insurance.
Can you
and then-
change that to buyout? Cause that's just, kind of deceiving, 2,500. We're
Yeah,
paying
just put health
her,
insurance buyout,
we're paying her.
that would make sense. Cause it's not a premium that the town's paying for her, they're buying her out.
Is that included in her W-2?
Yes, it's taxable.
It's wages, right? That's part of wages.
It's taxable income.
Just one.
And I don't know how many of you in this room know it, because you haven't all been at the budget meetings. this, budget also includes a 2.5% wage increase for everybody.
Right.
Just, most of you probably know that, but maybe all of you don't. So that's reflected in the wages there. The deputy and Debbie are getting a 2.5% raise on top of a buyout, on top of, I know, 100.
Debbie can't be there, she's only getting an extra $20
$20.
something.
Yeah, $24.
Is that what it works out to?
Yeah, $24.
Yeah.
You've
Wow,
got,
then it's gotta be somewhere, cause everybody got a
you've got
raise.
written there.
Yeah, everybody got a raise.
Now, in stipends, do they pay tax on that?
Yes.
They do pay tax?
I just did the road commission.
But we did hers too.
Well, I don't have hers.
What's that,
Well,
Jamie?
she's currently making what, $15.50 an hour?
Holy shit, that's all she gets?
Yeah,
Yeah.
1560
Yeah.
a month.
That's right.
Jesus Christ, I'm staying where I am.
Yeah.
I make a lot more money than that.
I agree. I think it's terrible.
Not worth the headache.
Not.
Well, I don't know, look at the other side of it, she only works 4 days a week.
Yeah, but even so, at
She can
that,
shut
lot
the
of
office
hours.
when it snows.
She works a lot of hours.
yeah, she's in here, I've seen her in here
Well,
like
you
when
know,
I've gone
that's not
working,
what I
yeah.
heard, Carol, at
And
one of your
Wednesday.
meetings. You guys are trying to figure out, how come she only works 39 hours a week? Remember that? Remember that? You wanted her to fit another hour in there somewhere.
Wow,
Sorry.
yeah, that's crazy.
I didn't have I didn't have Debbie's, but I did have Brad's numbers because we've been getting those monthly. So I just put that together for the road commissioner, you know, hourly pay and overtime that's built into the budget, that number, and mileage. I kinda wanted to get an idea of, you know, cause I've heard a comment made in the public meeting that the town of Peru treats their employees like crap. And
Actually, they used a different word.
yeah, I'm not using that because the paper's here and I don't wanna be in the paper. So anyway, that, you know, the total of that package for the road commissioner, if he were to take the whole amount of money that's budgeted to him for overtime and his $500 clothing allowance and all that totals up to $51,000 a year. So that's not, I mean, that's not a horrible paycheck for a year's worth of work in a small town of Peru. So I disagree with the fact that the town of Peru treats their employees like crap.
I do too.
And they have pretty good benefits with their vacations, and they can carry over, they have sick days, they can carry that over. I wouldn't say they're getting rich, but I wouldn't say that they're being treated poorly. But that, all I had the numbers for was Brad, but I would have done it for all of them. So when people say that that's.
Move the question.
kind of job.
How many people wanna move the question?
Or if you're gonna move it anyway, go ahead.
I moved the question anyway, and go ahead. Okay. What was the motion, Kathy? To recommend no. Okay, all those in favor of a no vote on Article 5? Okay,
But it's less than what she asked for, right?
all those in favor?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, okay, I'm a little confused
Wait a minute.
here.
Wait a minute, what are we saying?
Oh, here we go again.
Yeah, cause you
The motion
Yeah.
was to vote to recommend no.
To recommend no.
Right.
All those in favor of recommending no.
Which means you're voting for Kathy's motion, right?
Correct.
correct.
Right,
Which is,
No.
we don't
recommend
agree
no.
with this.
No.
We don't agree with this.
right.
Right.
Okay. Does everyone else understand that?
But are we saying it's too much, or are we saying that's not enough?
I'm saying it's too
No,
much. I
Just say who recommends yes first, and then go
Yeah.
to the no.
No, it's not who recommends
No,
it.
but I'm totally right-handed,
Had
and
to
you're
throw
going.
it.
Okay, I withdraw my motion. Will you withdraw yours,
It's still on
Don?
5.
Yes,
Sure.
it's still
It's gone down.
I mean, that's what.
No, you did.
I seconded
You did, I'm
that.
sorry. It's usually him, that's why I said
And what
that.
if I said no, I'm not withdrawing my second?
Then the motion stands and you have to vote on it.
That's right.
It just makes it more confusing to
confused
just
yet,
vote the other
Jackie?
Yeah, I'm
way.
already, I
Welcome
hate
to
these
our world.
votes.
It's a negative vote, I shouldn't have done it.
Well, it's hard to
No,
hear.
it's all right, as long as somebody guides us through it. Okay, so I'm opposed to Article 5. If I vote no now, I'm not voting for it. Is that right?
That's right.
Yes,
I'm
you're
voting
correct.
against it.
That's
So you're
right.
voting yes.
So you're voting yes.
I'm
So you-
voting yes, what?
You're in
Voting-
favor of a no motion.
I'm in favor of a no motion if I.
Yes.
So
There you
you're
go.
gonna
If
say
you vote
yes.
yes.
Are you ready?
All those in favor of recommending no.
Yeah, which is just what he said, and you are.
Okay.
Who's saying no?
No,
Voting no on that budget. Voting
on
no
that
on this
article,
article.
on that article, okay. 2, all those voting yes.
Of those,
1, 2, for the article.
me too.
1, 2,
no, against the article.
6.
It's a $10,000 contract.
All those
we got.
abstaining,
I am,
2.
cause I'm chewing on it.
She was a 7. She was changed 6 to a 7.
Okay, so she's for it.
I was surprised.
So motion fails.
Well, that's
Right.
pathetic.
I make a motion, we recommend yes
There we go.
for Article 5.
Second it.
Easier to vote that way.
Yeah, now it'll make more sense.
Discussion.
None.
All those people who wanted it,
Hey, those in favor of voting yes.
No,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those opposed? Oh, me.
Those abstaining.
3.
3. That means we're saying yes.
Yes.
Recommend yes.
Article 6. It's already after 8. Do you guys want to go
Keep
to where
going.
Brad?
go Article 6, you know?
To Article 6
Yeah, let's
anyway?
finish this
Just
one.
keep going.
Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $58,132 for town offices and appointed officials. In 2019-20, we voted $40,659. It's wrong in Article 6, it says 2019, but it's 2018-19, we raised $39,580.
So 19 and 20, we raised 46.59.
40,000.
Yep.
So
Yes.
that, the whole thing's gotta be fixed.
Say what
Yeah.
again? What'd you
If
say?
you, the Article 6 reads, if the, okay, at the end it says 2019-20 raised 39,000. That's actually 2018-19, we raised that.
So what's 1920?
1920 is 40,659.
Yeah, that should be fixed to say that.
1819 was what, I'm sorry?
$39,580.
Oh, so that,
That's already on there. But they made a
Yeah,
mistake.
it's a mistake. It needs to have 1920's
Yeah.
number on
oh,
it.
you're gonna be 1819?
Yeah, we're
It
nice.
shouldn't be. Listen,
It's a mistake.
somebody works on this in between.
Things are hard to hear.
So she missed that number.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was 1920.
Yeah.
I
Last
changed
year.
the year, but not the amount,
Oh,
apparently.
Oh, okay,
That's what I'm
So
trying
what
to
was
say.
it?
Oh, this
1920.
is the brain trust.
Okay.
$40,659.
Oh, so the one over here on the column's correct then. Okay, okay.
So, do I hear a motion?
Make a
All right.
motion, we recommend yes. Just to get this moving.
Second? Anybody second? I'm not second.
If you don't recommend, if you don't second it, you're gonna be in the no motion.
That's right. I'll make a motion to
Vote
second
yes
it.
to me, no.
Why, you don't want me all confused? They can have-
Yeah. Discussion.
I'll discuss it. This article's up 42%.
Why the
Why?
increases?
Yeah.
The assessor.
Well, that's 11.6 of it.
Yep, 11.6, we added $600 in so we can have the website.
1,000 for the newsletter.
Secretary to the board.
Yep. The secretary of the board, she just got a raise, her hours are staying the same,
What's our hours?
30.
budgeted up to 30 hours a week.
But she works more than that, am I correct? 'Cause
Yeah.
she works from home some.
How does she work from home?
She takes work home.
Is that the money coming out of the assessing that she takes home, or is it the?
She does a lot of work that she doesn't get paid for.
I didn't ask, is she working on assessing when she brings it home, or is she?
No, the assessing stuff she has to do from here because she has to have access to the files.
I have a question on this account. Where's the auditor?
Oh, here we go. That's somewhere else.
Yeah, it's on a different article.
Right, really?
I don't see it.
I know.
Shouldn't be.
It was somewhere
Maine
else.
Municipal Audit Services,
This is
Article 7.
7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
not the auditor, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that is.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
All right.
You had me nervous there for a minute.
Didn't you guys say everyone got 2.5%?
Yes.
She got more than 2.5%?
No.
Well, yeah, she did because she got a raise at the beginning of the year, which wasn't showing in last year's budget.
Wait a minute.
She went up to 13% and then she's getting a 2% raise on top of that, right?
This is a 2.5% raise on whatever she's making at the time the budget rolls around in July. So whatever she's making right now, we put the 2.5%
That would only
onto.
be $433.
But she got a raise in January, the first of the year, to 13.25, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you still showed 17,330. How much did she get paid last year, for the year?
For the year?
She wasn't here
She
for the
wasn't here
year,
for the whole
and we
year.
had, a considerable period of time where we didn't have a secretary.
Not good.
No, it wasn't good.
Things did not run smoothly during.
Listen.
I'm sorry.
You did your best. Thank you.
You guys function much
Thank
better.
you.
It's definitely true. Yeah. What's the $1,000 for training, Raquel?
For training,
Yeah.
the new official, whoever gets voted onto the board has to go to the training in Augusta. There's occasional trainings that sometimes we go to.
Like MMA training?
Yeah.
maybe?
And
That was
trio-
2,000 before, we cut it to 1,000.
That
And
was-
trio training is $800 a day.
Yeah.
And you don't have a code enforcement officer right now.
Well,
do
we're
not.
we're interviewing one Monday.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking of animal control.
Can I also say, speaking of animal control, I don't believe much of that account. I think there's a lot of money left in that account right now. Yeah, can you tell, please?
Does that include McKennel's?
It
Yeah,
does.
we don't use
Cozy
McKennel's.
Kennels.
Oh.
Whichever one it is,
Yeah.
yes, it does. Okay.
Where's that?
In summer.
What am I looking at, animal control?
Yeah, I think so.
The kennels isn't doing anything.
I think it's toward the end of this thing.
Yeah, I don't think they accept. I don't think they accept. I don't think they go. I don't think they do that. They like to do that, I think.
Right. I have to go through it again.
That's okay. It's I just think I've been looking through the warrants and it didn't seem like there'd been more than $300 or $400 maybe spent.
No, the biggest expense is the monthly payment to the kennel, which is required by ACO. We've expended 36.52%. There's a balance in the account of $2,221.75.
Spent maybe half. maybe.
And that's including
Not even-
paying the kennel every
Yeah.
month?
Kennel itself was close to, it was
Yeah.
over $1,800.
Yeah.
Just,
So most of it is the kennel then.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Love those mandates, don't you?
Any more questions?
So the 11.6, Raquel, that's a big part of that 42% increase. You have any, what percent is a big part of it, you know?
I would too.
5,000. It's either 4,000 or 5,000. I don't know what that means.
Because keep in mind, we really didn't have this.
Cut the newsletter, cut the website.
Right, it just moved from another different account
Right.
anyway though, right?
Right,
We had,
but we have somebody that's consistent now, where we didn't before.
no, I'm not questioning the number, I just think,
Yeah.
it looks like a big increase, but it's because we moved it from another.
We moved it
account.
from town office
know the
operations.
very well.
So town office operations should have went down 11.
Oh,
It did.
And this one should have went down, just,
I think there's really
get my head
quite a
around
bit in
that.
this article. Yeah.
can cut the website, but then everybody and every Monday night will complain because nothing's posted.
Right.
So.
I don't think everybody is in this room, so.
I'm just saying, that's all we heard was the website's not up, so.
I think with technology and the times changing and everybody becoming more tech savvy, we need to have that as an avenue to be able to post information. Whether our townspeople choose to assess it and view it and use it, at least we're providing that service to them. And $600 is not a lot as another avenue to inform our townspeople.
Carol, can you find planning board? Oh, I'm sorry, Mike has a question.
Why can't we put the newsletter on the website?
There you go.
That's what the WPA does.
We can, but as it was just stated, a lot of people don't look at the website and the newsletter. Well, it is true. For right now, they don't. And the newsletter we know is getting out to everybody. So until we get more people that access our website, that's why. We haven't done a newsletter very long. I think we've only actually done what, one.
Can you put our new website address on the fire station?
How long is it?
That's right.
It wasn't up. It wasn't up.
No, but it currently is now, and we do have a new address, and it would be great to advertise the new address on the fire stations.
How long is it, was my question.
townofperumaine.org.
No, that's it.
All lower case?
Yes, all lowercase.
Town of Peru, Maine, M-A-I-N-E, not M-E.
Correct. .org.
Any more discussion on Article 6? And there is a motion, right? There is a motion to
Yep.
say, all those in favor of yes on Article 6, please raise your hands.
What are we, I'm sorry.
Article 6, yes or no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 yes. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Abstain?
Somebody did.
Who's in?
Yep, I don't keep track anymore.
2, 4.
Don't raise a hand, don't raise a hand.
8. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $67,950 and to authorize the board to expend any receipts as needed for town office operations. 2019-20 raised, should be $70,000. Proposed this year $67,950. Selectmen recommend yes.
Make a motion, we make a yes recommendation.
Second.
The things that you talked about to fix the town office windows and stuff, where's that wrapped? Is that wrapped up in this
That's
article?
the building maintenance.
14,350. The building maintenance.
And last year that was,
It didn't have its own line last year.
oh, okay,
It's got 12,000 beside it.
right, that's what I was
Right.
asking, but I think it must have.
And why did the grounds increase?
Because we have to actually pay somebody to mow it.
Ed?
We didn't have somebody to do the grounds.
Why is the ground and cemetery maintenance under the operations of the office?
Because we're able to get a better contract if we have a contract for the cemetery and the ground versus breaking them apart.
So in other words, if there's money left over, you guys get to spend it.
No.
So there's not gonna be any money left over. It's $10,000 at best to get a contract